Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. I'm so glad we're together today. Hope that you are encouraged and you are strong in the Lord and the power of His might. We're talking about living by faith this week, and I hope you've been strengthened. You know, one of the things that I've seen the enemy work at, I believe with all of us, he's constantly working at pulling us out of faith. And I'm going to say it like this: pulling us away from relying on the Lord and getting us back to relying on ourselves. I'm going to give you a passage from the book of Numbers, chapter 13, that I'm sure you're familiar with. It's dealing with the children of Israel when they're going into the promised land. And right as they come to the door, Moses sends, the Lord tells Moses to send spies into the land and see if it's not what God had said it would be. I've read that so many times and questioned, why did God do that? Well, the reality was that really wasn't God's desire, even though He gave them permission to do that. It was the people questioning Moses that says, wait a minute, we need to send some people in to see what it's like in there and how we need to go about this, instead of trusting that God had given them the land. See, from day one, when they come out of Egypt, He had promised them, I'm going to give you a land that is good, a land that is large, and a land that is overflowing with milk and honey. And if you follow the journey of Israel, He brings them to a place of covenant, and He even tells them this: I'm going to send an angel before you, and he's going to be like hornets to your enemies. And you're going to go in and you're going to drive out your enemies. They're on this journey all the way to their promise. They're ready to manifest it, and they get right to the door. Isn't it just like the enemy to get you to the door of your promise and then almost disqualify you? That's exactly what he wants you to do. So when they went into the land, Moses sent a leader from every tribe. 12 are now going into the land. And for 40 days, 40 is the number of testing and trial, they're spying out the land. And the first thing they come across is the vineyards. And they find great clusters that are so big, it takes 2 men to carry it out. And they saw that the land was flourishing just like God said. But then they also saw the giants, and they saw the great walled cities, and they saw the bad sides. You know what God said, you're going to drive out, and He would give them power to drive it out. So the first thing that happened, 3 things that happened, and this is what the enemy always does. The first thing they did, they stepped back into themselves. What do you mean, Pastor? They stepped back into themselves. They didn't see themselves as the people of God and the people of covenant and the people of faith, but they saw themselves as the slaves they once were under that great army of the Egyptians. That's why they said there's great walls. Their armies, these cultures are greater than we are. The second thing they began to do, they began to talk negative. They stepped back into themselves, see themselves as slaves, and now they're talking like slaves again. They're talking about how big things are. They're talking about how great the people are. They're talking about how gigantic the men were. Instead of saying, wait a minute, this land is exactly what God said. It's flowing with milk and honey. Who would have ever thought about grape clusters that would take 2 men to pack a cluster of grapes out? I don't even know how you would eat one of the grapes with a cluster of grapes that big. But think about that for a moment. They started speaking negatively instead of speaking the things of God. That's what the enemy always wants you to do. He's going to pull you back into yourself. He's going to begin to get you to speak negatively. And then here's the third thing. He pulled them out of faith. They stepped into unbelief. You know, every one of us once in a while get in a moment of doubt. There's a difference between doubt and unbelief. Doubt is, I know God can. I know God is able. I just don't know how He will do it. But unbelief comes to the part that says this: I don't think God will. I don't think God can. I don't think God will do it for me. And friend, that's where most of us get. The enemy is always trying. You're at the point of your miracle. You're at the place, you're at the door of your promise you've been waiting on. And all of a sudden, here comes the enemy to blindside you and begin to get you to step out of faith and step into yourself and step into negativity and step into unbelief. Friend, stay focused on God and in faith.